MJ, Air Jordan, his Airness, the GOAT. Only one player comes to mind, and that's Michael Jordan. Regardless of who you think is the greatest player of all time, Michael Jordan will likely be at the top of the list for a very long time. That's how great he was. Before we get into this video, if you like more NBA content, hit the subscribe button and get notified when we upload a video. So let's get into it. Let's start with the moment he became Michael. In 1982, Jordan and his UNC Tar Heels were pitted against Patrick Ewing and the Georgetown Hoyas inside the Superdome for the NCAA championship. And his team trailing by 1, Jordan received a pass from Jimmy Black, then proceeded to knock down a game-winning shot to win the championship. Up until that point, no one knew who I was, Jordan said during his interview. Outside of the university, I was just known as Mike Jordan. When I hit that shot, my whole name became Michael Jordan. He already had greatness in him early on. Even Bob Knight, the legendary NCAA coach who was known to be extremely critical of players, said, "If I were going to pick 3 or 4 best athletes I've ever seen play basketball, he'd be one of them. I think he's the best athlete I've ever seen play basketball, bar none. If I were going to pick people with the best ability I've ever seen play the game, he'd be one of them. If I wanted to pick one of the best competitors, he'd be one of them. He's the best athlete. He's one of the best competitors. He's one of the most skilled players, and that to me makes him the best basketball player I've ever seen." But even before playing his first NBA game, Michael Jordan's own general manager, Rod Thorne, who drafted him, even doubted him. Here's what he said. "We wish he were 7 feet, but he isn't. Jordan isn't going to turn this franchise around. I wouldn't ask him to. I wouldn't put that kind of pressure on him. He's a good offensive player, but not an overpowering offensive player." Picked 3rd overall in the 1984 draft behind Hakeem Olajuwon and Sam Bowie, Jordan came out the gates hot, averaging over 28 points, 6.5 rebounds, 6 assists, 2.5 steals, while shooting an efficient 51.5% from the field. Those are borderline MVP numbers in just his rookie year. In his second year, he broke his foot early on, causing him to miss most of the 1985 season. He then came back in the playoffs against the historic 1986 Celtics team, scoring 49 points in Game 1 of the first round of the Eastern Conference and an absurd 63 points in Game 2, prompting Larry Bird to say that was God disguised as Michael Jordan. In Jordan's first 3 years with the Bulls, he was eliminated in the first round of the playoffs every time, no matter how great he played. But in his 4th year in the NBA, he finally got the help he needed when the Bulls drafted a rookie, Scottie Pippen and Horace Grant. And this early Big Three went to the conference semifinals their first year together and conference finals in their second and third year, only to be eliminated 3 straight times by the eventual champions Detroit Pistons. Despite his great play, it still wasn't enough against the physical style of play that the bad boy Pistons were dishing out. In the offseason, Jordan went to bulk up to better absorb the physical abuse from the Pistons. He came back with a vengeance that only the greatest player would do. During his 7th season, Michael Jordan started a dominance never before seen in the league outside of Bill Russell's legendary Celtics run. Jordan went on to beat the back-to-back champion Detroit Pistons, Magic Johnson's Lakers, Clyde Drexler's Trailblazers, Charles Barkley's Suns, Gary Payton's Sonics, and John Stockton and Karl Malone's Utah Jazz. His championship run was so dominant that he prevented a lot of all-time greats from winning a championship. The only time somebody else won was when Jordan retired for the first time and Hakeem Olajuwon won back-to-back titles while Jordan was gone. Michael Jordan, the 3 primes in his career. First was his athletic freak prime, where he dominated anyone on the court and put up stats. Second was when his mind caught up to his insane physical ability and he understood the importance of team play. He became the best player on offense and defense, scoring at a high volume and high efficiency and teaming up with Scottie to be the best defensive duo in the league. Third was he lost some of his athleticism, but still dominated with his basketball IQ, skills, and his unstoppable mid-range game. Most players experience one prime in their career, and it's not long. Michael Jordan had 3 primes, sustained over a long period of time in 3 different physical forms. The common theme was his ability to score efficiently in the most inefficient part of the floor, the mid-range area. Take a look at this shot chart. Everyone knew MJ loved the mid-range, but nobody was able to stop him from scoring at such a high volume and efficiency. His footwork, post-up, and jumping ability was at such a high level that it made him unstoppable on offense. Add to that his menacing defense and you got yourself an extraordinarily great player. But you can't get the greatest player of all time by just being gifted, because a lot of NBA players are naturally gifted. What makes Michael Jordan great is not just his game, but his ability to continuously motivate himself, turning any challenge and trash talk into fuel. His competitive fire to win knew no bounds. He would take any comments from other players personally and turn that into an opportunity to become better. He would even humiliate his own teammates if they weren't playing up to his standards. But in 1993, Michael Jordan shocked the world, and he retired from the NBA in the middle of his prime. But when he returned in 1995, even though he was not as athletic as he used to be, he was smarter, more sharp, and became an even greater team player. Michael Jordan dominated all aspects of the game. Since his return from his retirement, he went on to win 3 straight scoring titles, 2 MVPs, 3 all-defensive first teams, and led the Chicago Bulls to 3 consecutive titles, his second three-peat of his career, winning 6 titles in 8 years to show the world once again that he is the best to ever play the game. Throughout his career, he is the player with the highest scoring average ever at 30.1 points per game. Went 6-0 in the NBA Finals with 6 MVPs. In his career, Michael Jordan was a 6-time champion, 5 regular season MVPs, 10 scoring titles, 14-time All-Star, 11-time All-NBA, 9-time All-NBA defense, and the list goes on and on. What made Michael Jordan so unstoppable was his strive for greatness in everything there is to do with winning. He is arguably one of the greatest competitors that we have ever seen in the history of sports. So where do you rank Michael Jordan on the all-time list? Share your thoughts in the comments section below. If you enjoyed this video, remember to like and subscribe for more NBA content.